Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome, and thanks for being here. As promised, another collaboration with Sports Card Therapist. We had a good time putting this one together, so I hope you guys enjoy it. So without further ado, here we go.
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Sports Card Therapist and Sports Card Lessons bi-weekly collab. My name is Rob, your Sports Card Therapist.
I'm Ken Cairns, Sports Card Lessons.
How's it going, man?
Actually, I should say Big Ken, right?
Big Ken.
Big
People
Ken.
are like, yeah, Ken, I was looking all over for you at the show. What are you, like 6'4", 6'5"? You're like, no.
all 6'8" of me, right?
Yeah, man. So this is, I believe, our maybe third week in a row doing the bi-weekly collab. But I mean, we probably have at least 15 or 20 episodes under our belt just in total, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, over the course of my 2 seasons and your 3 seasons, and
I'm
this
on
new
my fourth,
collab.
by the way. I'm on my fourth. I
Oh, you're
believe
on season 4?
I'm on season 4, yeah. So,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm gonna look up in real time because, like I always say, we don't really do much prep for this.
No.
So Monday I dropped episode 166 with Dinged Corners with Sports Car Dad. So this is episode 167 for me. And then for you, it's what?
For me, it is episode 83.
Okay. Nice, man. Good
Yeah,
stuff. Good stuff.
83. Yeah, because I hit 82 episodes. I couldn't believe it. I talked about it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
closing in on 100 fast.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. So yeah, like let's just jump right into Hofstra. Adam Sandler was there. I was not. You were.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Me and Adam hanging out.
apparently you guys, Adam bought you dinner. Is that what happened?
Yeah. We hung out. Yeah. Uh, no, it was kind of cool. You would think, and I said this on my podcast this week, but you would think that him being there and the camera crews and everything, it was really gonna muck things up, right? I mean, because Hofstra, the aisles are so thin. They have that one area for the autographs, and they have great people in their signing, so that area was completely packed with people.
So, in
And
your opinion, like you would have thought that them being there, his film crew being there would have totally screwed everything up and turned it into chaos because there's already the place is always mobbed with no
yeah,
room.
yeah. And when I tell you that place is mobbed, and where we set up, and you got to
Oh,
go
yeah.
to you got to go to the bathroom. You don't want to leave your table because there's constant people there, and then you're trying to push through people just to get through, to the bathrooms over there. So
It's almost like a 20-minute venture to go to the bathroom and back, when in reality
I
it's probably only like 300 to 400 feet from you.
kid, I was like OJ Simpson, just banging through people, just trying to get through and get back. Yeah.
Listen,
Uh,
if you would have told me you were going to make an O.J. Simpson reference on this podcast, I would have thought you were full of it. But I tell you, man, you really know how to slice things up here. So so Hofstra, good show. Any significant pickups? Any pickups for the PC, or is it really just inventory?
Yeah, like I picked up a bunch of cards that I immediately put in my case. It was reminiscent of National last year when we were buying cards, putting repricing them, putting them in the case, and they're selling almost immediately. So yeah, I went back. I realized I picked up 8 cards, and out of the 8 cards I picked up, 5 I sold. I sold right back off, and 3 I hung on to. But I hung on to. I could have sold those cards, but I hung on to them, being pretty firm on the comp, on the price I wanted to sell it for, because there were cards that I knew are going to gain in price, over the next few months. So it wasn't like a big deal. Like if somebody really wanted the card, I would have sold it to them at, at comp, but I wasn't going to let it go underneath. And I picked up, some PC cards. Um, so I picked up a really nice Brittany Griner. It was 2016. It was the Olympic autograph card.
Wow.
So yeah, it was. It's funny, and I talk about this all the time. The guy comes up and he's looking. I said, hey, what's in the case? And he says, nah, there's nothing in here you'd be interested in. I said, you never know what I'd be interested in. Let me take a look, see what you have. And as I'm going through, he goes, see, I told you. He goes, there's nothing but crap in there. And I get to the very last card, and it was the Brittany Griner card. I pulled it out. I go, yeah, well, this is kind of a crappy card. You want to get rid of it?
Did you say that?
I did. I
What
did.
did he say? Did he start laughing?
Yeah, he started laughing. I said, what do you
Because
want for that? He goes,
he
well, there's
probably
no.
knew that's a good card, right? Like he probably knows what he has, right? You don't accidentally pick up a Brittany Griner card, So the person that has that, they know what they have. That old funny cliche saying, "I know what I have,"
Yeah.
but so you got to know he knows it's the top WNBA card at that moment.
Yeah, yeah. And he said right away, it's a pop one. There's no comps on it. There's no comparison cards. There's no way to even look up a comp. And so I tried to look one up anyways, and he had it on eBay for $1,200. Which I mean, he said I had no idea what to ask for the card, so I just threw it up there and see if people would make offers on it.
So that's pretty cool, right? Because what happens is you found the card, right? He didn't show you the card on eBay. You went looking for comps. You find the card, right? And talk about participation is required here and really being thorough. So he pulls out the card. He's like, it's a pop one. There's no comparables, blah blah blah. And you're like, you know what? You could just kind of be like, yeah, okay, I believe him. Seems like a trustworthy guy. Let's start negotiating. But you'd really have no idea what a starting point is. But since you're thorough, you take out your phone, you look up comps, but you also see that the same card's posted for sale. And because you did that, he said, yeah, I mean, I just threw it up there. Who knows if I'll get an offer or not. So from there moving forward, that the value of $1,200 to him is ridiculous. So in your mind, you must be like, I, I'm going to throw out an offer of 400. And I have
Oh,
no idea what it is you did, but I'm just kind of imagining right now.
yeah, yeah. He was interested in a Joe Burrow card that I had in the case for 500, and we ended up making a deal where he gave me that card and $300 and took the Joe Burrow card. Now he
What?
started with a 1-for-1. He just felt that it should have been a 1-for-1, and I just told him I couldn't get there. I couldn't get there on that. And then he kind of thought about it, and he said, "Let me think about it." And he moved away from the table. I helped somebody else, and he came back and he said, "You make me like, what do you think would be the best?" And that was the offer I put out there, and he agreed to
So
it.
he gave that Brittany Griner card to you at a value of $200.
Yep.
Wow. Now let me
Yep.
ask you, what were you into the Burrow for? Do you know?
300.
Wow.
So
So
I got
you,
I got the Britney for free.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I
Mhm.
tell you, participation is required, man. And I
Yeah.
know I've said this before, but it really feels like the student surpasses the teacher because I'm hearing that and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if I would have made that deal, I would have centered almost an entire episode around that deal. My thinking, the psychology behind it,
Mhm.
the subtleties of just kind of moving away from him and saying, I couldn't do that. And then you move your focus to another customer. Now, all of a sudden, it's like in his mind, he's kind of like, oh, shoot, like, I don't want to lose this guy's attention. I don't want someone to come up and buy the Burrow card. So now it's really like the ball's in your court. And it's not to say that you're looking to take advantage or anything like that, but you're just trying to get the card for as little as you can because since there's no comps and there's nothing comparable, who knows what it's worth? I mean, it could be
Yeah.
worth $50. I mean, I
Yeah.
think we both know it's not worth $50, but so it's not to say that you're not taking some risk there too,
Mm.
because I think there's always risk when you're buying a card that's a pop one, and there's really nothing to compare it to. Like you're taking just as much risk as they are.
Yeah. So two things on that. The risk that I'm taking, I don't care because it's gone into this case behind me and it's not leaving. It's not like a card I'm going to be bringing to a show and putting a price tag on. So I'm happy to have it. And two, that really started that whole deal. Actually, three things. That whole deal started, whenever the Mohegan show was, right? Because here I was, buying football out of people's cases there at the absolute lowest prices, right? So people had, and you were there, some people were coming with football and they did. We were, trying to scoop, or I was trying to scoop it up anyways, um, on that. And three, I think having the room busy too, having a busy show where people are, like if that was a slow show, he probably would have stood there and grinded with, been grinding with, this whole transaction out. If it was slow, if nobody else was around, it would have been let's go a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. And
But
I
there
think
was some
because
urgency. There was urgency because of the
yeah,
crowd.
yeah, because there was somebody else there. He said, let me think about it. I said, okay, you think about it. I'm going to help this person. And then I started talking to somebody else about something else. And I just saw him kind of go off to the side. And when I was done, he kind of jumped back in and said, okay, I'm ready to make a deal. Like, look, what can we do? And
Wow.
I felt offering on a card that there's no comps on, and probably I'm the only person in the room. I say that all the time, but maybe I'm not. But there's probably very few people that are gonna be like, "Oh wow, a Brittany Griner card. That's what I want to buy."
I was just gonna make that point. I was
Mm,
gonna say, I bet you're the only person in the room to either A, comment on the card if he had a whole Zion box there, or the first person to actually make an offer or say, "What are you asking for that?" Right? Someone
mhm.
might comment on it because it's so niche, but how many people actually inquired about it?
Yep.
So, but and that's the thing, right? I love what you're doing and what you've been doing because if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it, but I'll paint the picture if you're listening on podcast. Behind Ken is a 4-row display case of all cards, right? And that whole bottom row is Mike Tyson. The
Yep.
entire top row is random soccer, I think.
All Trinity Rodman.
All Trinity Rogers. So or Rodman. So
Rodman.
that's Dennis Rodman's daughter.
Yep.
So the entire top row is
Yeah.
Trinity Rodman. Then the
Mhm.
entire second row is Anna
It,
Kournikova.
yep, Anna
Love that.
Kournikova, a couple of her, Sophia Smith, Rose Lavelle.
And
Um,
then it looks like I'm seeing Serena Williams in the
you
third
you can
row.
see it. You can see Brittany, that my Brittany card right there on the second row.
Wow. Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
that's the Brittany Griner. Yeah.
So
And,
so
and
point
all the
being,
tennis, all that tennis, most of those cards are all PSA 10, right? Except for like all the tennis is PSA 10. You see Lady Gaga. I gotta figure out which side I'm on right there. That's Lady Gaga there. She's the BGS 10 pristine. I put Mike in the case with all the beautiful women.
so yeah, so what I'm really liking about what you're doing, and I know we spent a lot of time talking about it, but I don't think we really kind of put a name to it. But it does seem like after a few years of being like, Ken, what's your PC? And you saying, I don't know, it feels like your PC has really been female athletes.
Mhm. Yep. Yep. I mean, it started really with the tennis.
Anna Kournikova, I remember you were getting
Yep.
some of her cards early.
Yep. And now and what it's been is really the soccer, the women's soccer and the WNBA cards. I'm really getting into both of those. So it's nice for me that they're collectible, right? It's I'm not I like to go out and find them. I like to find those diamond, like, that needle in the haystack, like this guy showed up with, just this one card in there. I found some other cards the same way, that I talked about. Um, and I enjoy doing that. I enjoy looking for the cards and finding the cards, and it's completely separate than everything I'm putting in my cases. So I don't even have to like say, "Well, I PC this person, but I really wanna put them in my case too." I'm not even These aren't even cards that are coming to the show. They're staying here at home, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great, man. That's great. And so I'm curious, and this kind of gets into our topic for the show. And I want to say shout out to Joey D, Joey D's cards on Instagram. He, came up to Ken and I at the Springfield show, and Ken and I are set up together, and Joey D just starts talking to us, and he was there for probably about a good half hour on and off, just kind of BSing, and Joey is someone that I've gotten to know a little bit just from DMing and stuff like that on Instagram, and and it's on Instagram at Joey D's cards. So he just starts kind of firing off questions at us, and one of them that stuck out was pretty cool, but I wanted to expand on it a little bit. He asked us, well, yeah, I guess we'll go with that question first. He said, if you could PC only one player, who would it be?
And,
So
and we both looked at each other and said, this is probably going to make for a great topic in our next episode.
yeah, definitely, definitely. So if you could PC one person, who would it be?
Um, I would probably say Mike Tyson.
Tyson?
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about what collecting Tyson means to you.
It's someone that I watched. I don't want to say growing up, but I just watched when he was in his prime. I loved to watch him fight. I loved watching him in the movies when he was done fighting in the movies. And one of the neat things about collecting his cards is there's not a ton of them, right? There's just odd sets here and there of his that you really, again, like I talk about, you really have to search for these cards and find them. It's not like a quarterback. It's not like a Michael Jordan card, right, or a Patrick Mahomes card where there's tons of these in every sets, and that a company like Panini is putting out 30 different variations and all these different. You don't find that with him. It's his cards are tough to come by, and I enjoy looking for the more the rarity of the cards, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And when he asked me that, I thought long and hard, and because I couldn't just come up with an answer right away. And what's funny is he actually, because he listens to the podcast, he actually guessed correctly what my initial guess was, and that was Mickey Mantle. I've talked a lot about that, about why I collect Mickey and whatnot, but I said, you know what, that was my initial gut feeling, but now I'm leaning toward Eli because just it's so. Eli's rookie year was 2004. I met my wife in late 2007, and 3 months later, Eli won his first Super Bowl MVP. 3 months later, and my wife, just like me, is like a diehard Giants fan. We've gone to so many games over the years, so many games. Never missed a game on television once. Even when we've been in different countries, we always find a way to watch the NFL games because in every country we've been to, there's like, I guess, what they consider an American bar, and they show all the football games. So we
Mhm.
make sure, doesn't matter what time it is. But the name that came to me and that I settled on was Derek Jeter. If I collect only one player, and why would that be? And I think it's, because baseball is baseball,
Mhm.
and Derek Jeter is someone that I just watched, with my father from being, a younger kid, and watching him win all those World Series games. But the crazy thing is I don't have really any decent Derek Jeter cards. So it was crazy. It hit me like a ton of bricks when he's like, "Who would you PC if you could only do one person?" And then I finally was like, "Okay, I got it."
Mhm.
And when I thought about it, I'm like, "But you don't even PC him now. So what's going on? Why haven't I taken the plunge?"
Yeah, I thought for sure it was going to be Hulk Hogan. I mean, when he said that, you never answered, and then you were like naming off a few people, and I thought in the back of my head, I know you so well, right? I thought for sure it would have been Hulk Hogan, just because of you being the Hulk Hogan super collector, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think the reason why I didn't go with the Hulkster is because I basically got out of really watching him when I turned 12. Whereas Jeter literally I was 12. So it was like right around the same year. I was now maybe 13 Jeter's rookie year. So, I'd gotten to a point where okay, I'm going into my teenage years now and um as much as I love Hogan, as fun as he is to collect, I just as an adult, even as a teenager, I really have no, I guess, feelings toward him. So I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah, yeah. I know. I mean, I remember, with Mike Tyson, I remember having fight parties, right? When he
fight
was,
parties. So
they were
like
fight parties. You used to have to buy the fight. You used to have to buy those fights on pay-per-view,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And everybody'd come over at 7:30, but the fight wouldn't actually start until midnight, right? So,
So
you know,
back then the fights were either 29.95 or 49.95.
yeah, probably. Yeah, I think they were more the 40. They were close to $50,
Yeah,
and
I
we
think they
really
were.
did.
Yeah.
We didn't really have a way to cheat the system back then. Not like they do today. Yeah.
Then I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the UFC, the huge UFC events that happen like every 2 weeks on Saturdays, I think those cost like the big UFC events. I think they cost close to $100 to
Yeah,
buy.
it's like $99 or 8.
That's
Yeah,
nuts.
because I remember I was when UFC first came out, I was watching the UFC, and
Way back in the early 2000s.
yeah,
Were you really? You were watching it
yeah.
way back
When
then?
it first came out, I
Yeah.
had a box that you could put on the TV and you could watch these things, and then
That's when what's his name? I think Gracie was coming out, and Gracie was out fighting with like his white karate robe, and he would fight like boxers. you know,
yeah,
that's kind of what UFC was
yeah,
like.
yeah. Um, yeah, and I followed it probably, up until maybe 2010, 2012. And then I just felt that it was, um, and again, here's an interesting thing. I seem to enjoy not the title fights, right? It was all the other fights because I just felt these were people just, fighting for, to be in the sport.
Oh
Where the
yeah.
title fights came out, there was so much hype around. It used to wait so long. Sometimes I'd fall asleep waiting for the, the actual, thing from the last fight to when the title fight was going to happen. It would take so long. But all those pre title fights that started at like 7, 8,
Yeah, the
9, 10.
undercards.
Oh, I used to love watching those. And then I realized a lot of those you didn't even have to buy the pay-per-view. You could watch them up to 10 o'clock, right? So then that's kind of what I started doing. And then,
So if you could only collect one sport, you can go back as far as you want. What sport would it be?
I think for a sport, um, it would have to be football to me. Yeah. I mean, I get it's interesting to say. I get the most enjoyment out of obtaining football cards, which is why I think I like this whole dealer thing and because I can acquire these cards and put them in my case and I keep acquiring them. It's like this, rinse, wash, repeat type. You know what I'm saying? And I really enjoy that. I love buying these cards as my PC, but if you took all the rest of the hobby away from me, right? Where would I find these cards? You know, my PC is a product of me being in the hobby, um, and being in the hobby, football collecting. we talk about collecting, and you're talking about collecting and keeping. I'm talking about collecting and eventually selling, buying, flipping, that type of thing. So, I mean, that's what I do in the hobby. So that's what I enjoy the most in the hobby. What
Yeah.
about you?
I think if I could collect only one sport, I would have to collect baseball.
Mhm.
It's like I want to give it like a longer thought, but I'm like, no, it's got to be baseball. And I think it's because baseball has so many hundreds of sets and so many you know what I mean, hundreds of players that I would love to start PCing. I would love to start a side PC of. You can't really, in my opinion, you can't really say that about football. And
Mhm.
don't get me wrong. I mean, I understand it's because baseball's a lot older than football. It's a lot older than basketball, right? Sets were coming out very early, very early. I mean, the first real mainstream set came out in '09 and was coming out well before then. Those were the T206s. So I think I would have to pick baseball just because there's so many incredible
Yeah.
sets and there's
And you
so
go all
many.
the way back to what, 18 something,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah, late 1800s.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's hundreds of just legendary players that if I said their name, you'd be like, "Yep, yep, I've heard of
Yep.
him. Yep, yep,
Mhm.
yep." And I think with like I said, obviously baseball is a lot older of a sport, but I think that football and basketball, they just don't have the amount of recognizable names, incredible stories, and well documented stories as baseball
Mhm.
players.
Yeah, but and two, I think if you were a fan of the game, it's easier to,
Oh yeah,
you know,
definitely.
to go back and,
Yeah.
if you took the whole hobby away from me and said, you won't be setting up at shows, you won't be doing any of this anymore, just collect what you like, what you really like, I would be back to the, probably the women's soccer, or the women's basketball. I mean, that's what I'd be in. But, for me, I love football. I watch football. I've watched it my whole life, so um I enjoy it. I enjoy, not only the modern, but, even well, I guess they're all kind of modern, right? How far do they go back?
Yeah.
But,
And
the
it's pretty ironic that you collect so many female sports players because doesn't Sherry limit the amount of female sporting events you could watch per week? Aren't you on
ab-
like a
absolutely not. I live in a house of all women. It, even the dog's a female. So yeah.
Oh man, that's great. So all right, so before we wrap up, Ken, Toronto Expo. Tell me about that, man. Tell me
Woo!
what's going on there.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Very excited.
You
I've
you
got
are like spreading your wings. You're traveling for shows now.
yeah,
Like jumping on a plane type traveling.
yeah, yeah.
Are you taking your jet, your private plane?
Oh yeah,
Or
yeah. My private jet. Yeah, I'm
well, it's
driving
not
myself
yours
down.
per se, but it's your family's, I know, and so you
I'm
know.
driving myself down to New York to get down to the LaGuardia to get on a plane down there. But I'm excited. I'm excited. I've been to Toronto many times, so it's not like a new place for me to go. But going to the Card Expo is my first time going there. I'm very excited. I've separated my cards. I have my new Zion backpack with the
Oh,
smaller
nice.
box in it. So I've got to put all my hockey cards in there. So yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm excited. There's people that have been connecting with me that I'm going to meet up out there, through the podcast, things like that. So yeah, I'm excited. I like to meet new people. I like to travel, and I'm going to be happy to get out there to see a show that's completely different, to something I've never seen before,
Yeah.
because all the shows we do are mostly football and baseball cards, and we're going out, it's going to be 90% hockey.
And one thing I didn't realize about the Toronto Expo is that the card show is actually set up on an ice rink. So, when you go there, you're good to go. You get your pair of skates, lace them up, and
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
good to go. But I know you're going to be seeing a friend of ours, Jeremy Lee. He's going to be up there, so you're going to be seeing him.
yeah.
Um, Yeah, man. So what's your big goal? Are you going in with a plan or what?
I'm going in. I have a number of cards that I'll move, that I would like to move, and we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what to expect. So,
Yeah.
I've got, a small plan, but in this hobby, a plan is, you need plan A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, right? Because until you show up and see what the vibe is and what's going on, you don't know. So I always talk about know the show. I have no idea what to expect here.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. The uncertainty, the not knowing what's going to happen. So
And you know what the great American poet Mike Tyson once said about having a plan.
yeah, yeah. It's until what everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Is that the
So either when you show up in Toronto, you're either going to get punched out by a Canadian thug, or you're going to get punched in the mouth with the amount of hockey that you see, and you're going to be like, "Oh my God, I was not planning on picking up this much hockey. Just when I was halfway out, they pull
yeah,
me back in."
yeah, yeah,
That's what's going to happen with you in
yeah.
this going to Toronto right as you're trying to move, a
Mm,
majority of your hockey cards.
yeah. And I'm always looking, um, and I say looking, but I'm never really prepared because I've got, so many things invested in so many other cards. But I'm always looking for an Ovechkin Young Guns. I'm always, whenever it pops up online and this and that, I always say, oh, and then I usually let it pass by. So if I was to pick up a card up there, that may be the place to pick one of those cards up. Um,
I mean, I would imagine going to Toronto, it's like the equivalent of picking up a Tom Brady in Massachusetts at a
yeah, yeah,
Massachusetts show. It's like, you know, you're gonna just have the run of just everything there is
yeah,
with hockey. I mean, I would probably leave if I went there. I'm not even a hockey fan. I would probably leave wearing a hockey jersey. You know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that was one thing I looked into too, because Toronto's in the playoffs, and I said, is it possible that they're out there playing Saturday night, that I could go catch a game, but they're actually going to be in Tampa on Saturday night when I'm there.
You know what? Anytime I really travel, I do the same thing. If I'm going to a new city, if I'm going to a different country, for sure, I'm always like, what sporting teams are there? Okay, what sporting events can I? Yeah, yeah. So when my wife and I went down to Key West in 2014, we were down there for only probably like 4 or 5 days, but I made sure to Miami is like what 2.5 hours from Key West, I think.
Mm,
So made sure to go to a Miami Heat game when I was down there. Really
all right.
wanted to see LeBron and Dwayne Wade and everything, and
Mm,
so
yeah. You became a local.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, so Ken, it was a pleasure getting together with you once again. Any final thoughts? How can people get in touch with you?
Sports card underscore lessons on Instagram, sports card lessons on YouTube. Message me, reach out to me. I'm always available.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Sports card therapist everywhere you get your content. Ken, thank you very much, man. It's always a pleasure linking up with you.
It was fun, Rob. Thank you.
Enjoy Toronto.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. And don't forget, guys, take care of yourself and your collection.
And take care of yourselves and everyone around you.